Good evening, everyone. This is Vera Sadler, your host with Tuesday Talk Live. And again, I'm here with a very exciting guest. This month, March, I am highlighting God's influential women. And as I said last week and the week before, we're not going back in history. We're going forward. We're starting here in our history because even though March is Women's History Month, God told me not to go back and pull out of history. He said to mark the women who are making history now. And another thing he said is that our youth, our young women, our young men do not need to keep looking at those that they consider influential in the social media, in the stars, those that they're watching, but they need to know those in their very own community, those in their backyard that are making history, legacy makers. So God has allowed me to be able to reach out to some wonderful women in our own backyard, Dallas, Fort Worth, areas of women I've been able to just cross paths with. And this woman is so amazing. When I first met her, I saw her singing on the stage and my heart leaped. Just like Mary said, her heart leaped, the baby in Elizabeth's womb leaped when Mary and Elizabeth came together. That's where I felt Ruth, when I saw you and your family singing on stage, and I have been wanting to do, I've been reaching out to you for a while. So this is just God's perfect timing that we were able to come together. So I want to take time and introduce to all of those. And for others, I'm sure people all over know you from what the work you do, but I want people all over the world or whoever connects and watch this broadcast to know Ruth, and I hope I say your last name correct, Ruth Calzada. And I want others to take a moment, introduce yourself to our guest tonight, and then we're going to hop into a conversation about who you are, what you do, and all the amazing things you do as a woman and a mother, a mentor, all those great things. So just take a moment, introduce yourself to our guest.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Ruth Calzada, and my main heart, number one passion is I'm the director of Fort Worth Metro. We are an inner city outreach ministry that we work with mostly in Fort Worth, but the Lord has been kind of expanding a little bit, and we'll talk about that a little more. But we provide Jesus mostly for the families in the inner city, and just hope and a reminder that they are not forgotten, that they are important, and that people care about them, and we. In that, we also provide groceries and resources, clothing, food, all kinds of school supplies, shoes, and things for the families in need. So that's my primary thing, my primary heart. I'm also a worship leader / vocal director at Movement City Church in Fort Worth, serving there. I love to lead worship and sing, and just, people ask me, why do you worship the way that you do? And I say, well, the Lord has given me so much and done so much for me that I look and I think, what can I give you? I have nothing that'll even match what He's done for me. And so when I get the opportunity, I just worship my guts out. So, so that's another facet to my life. Also a mom of 3, 2 biological. I have my son as Dash. He's 20 and he's married to my wonderful daughter in love, Emily. And then I have my amazing daughter, Gabby, that I get to worship with. And she's 24 and she's just incredible. And I love him so much. And my husband and I will be celebrating 28 years in May. And he's so fun. And I just love him. And he's a Fort Worth police officer. And we do ministry together as well. And I just love it. I'm 50. And so I feel
Wonderful.
Like the Lord's just getting started. I got a long time to keep going. And I'm excited for what God has coming. So,
well, thank you for that. And yes. I just believe, yes, you said 50. I just turned 60. So I believe my latter years are better than my former years. I feel someone said something to me the other day. I was celebrating and I kept saying, this is funny. I kept saying 60 never looked so good. And I wasn't bragging about me. Inside, people don't realize, Ruth, I was bragging about the Lord. Because I felt like I am where He has me, trying my best. And every day I may not make it right every day, but trying my best to do all that He has said for me to do. and
Absolutely.
feeling like I'm living where he wants me to be, just trying to do those things. But so grateful. You said something just a minute ago. God has done so much, right? And every day I wake up thinking that, God, you've done so much. What can I give back to you? What can I say about you today? How can I just worship you in with?
Right.
And I said I wasn't going to cry when we talked today, but be so grateful for just the things he has done. And then we take even sometimes the smallest things for granted that the Father has done. So worship for me is so important, and be so grateful. For years, God has just always told me, have such a grateful heart. That a heart
Yeah.
of gratitude goes so much further than people think. And that's how I met you a couple of years ago. We were at a women's conference, and I saw you and your amazing family. And when you were out worship, the freedom and the way your family brought the ladies in that room into worship, it was like it was explosive. And I love, and I've seen people worship, but the family, the way you moved, I just want to tell you, you just moved my heart. And
Thank you.
I just felt just so good. I saw a picture recently. You're not just the things you said, but you're a mentor to other young women. And like you embrace, and your mom, you said you asked God to give you daughters, and here you had your arm
Yes.
around about 5 other young women that God gave you to mentor. And for those of us who mentor or who coach or who, for me, I'm not just a coach, but I am a mentor. I have all those who call me Mama, Mama Vera. That's another thing, that when God places that in your heart, that is something big,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a huge responsibility,
Yes, ma'am.
because you have to be careful what you're pouring out. But I want to hop in on what you guys do at Fort Worth Metro. I saw some pictures. There's so much you have coming on. You have the Souls for
So
Souls,
much.
and I see pictures. If anybody wants to check out her website, I'm going to pop this up here early because I want people to see there's a website, fortworthmetro.org. You have to go, or you can go to her Facebook page. You can go to Ruth's Facebook page. So many organizations are out here talking about what they're doing, but you have hundreds and hundreds of pictures that show the work that Fort Worth Metro is doing. And it's serving. Tell us about how you even first got started with the desire to do this type of work.
So it's a long process. The moment for me, I was actually 11,
Wow.
and I was prayed over and given a word, and he talked about my feet, and he was like, I see your feet, and your feet are just in fields, and they're so dirty, and he's just like, man, I can't get can't get my eyes off your feet. Your feet are just going into these. And he's like, I just see just dirt and rocks and just almost just trash. And he's like, and your feet are in these fields, and you're just walking, and you're going through these fields. And he said, and I was 11 at the time. And the last word he said as he prayed over me is, this child will lead thousands to the Lord. Of course, I was 11, so I didn't quite know. Mom has it written in a Bible that she gave me a few years ago, and so just seeking the Lord, growing up in church, and went to Bible college. Started out at a secular college. Felt the Lord calling me to Bible college, so I gave up a scholarship at a secular college to go to Bible college, and graduated from there. And I'll never forget, in June 7th, 1993, I went out to do an outreach in a neighborhood here in Fort Worth called Stop 6. And it's one of if you ask anybody in Fort Worth, if you say, well, I'm going to Stop 6 today, they're going to say, what are you doing in Stop 6? Like, why are you going to Stop 6? It's a little bit rougher around the edges community. And I went to go I had heard about a guy that was doing it, had been involved with some other things that he was doing. And he said, I do this inner city ministry, this street ministry. It's called Youthquake Metro. And he said, I'd like for you to come out and check it out. Okay. So June 7th, 1993, I stepped into Stop 6 for the very first time. And 32 years later in June, I'll never left.
Oh, wow.
Been
Amazing.
there ever since. That's actually where we went this past Saturday to do a big event. And so, it's just just going out and so it's obviously it's crossed hands several times. I wasn't the original director when we first started. I was a volunteer, then became part-time staff, then became full-time staff, and then in 2000, my husband and I became the official directors. And so, but yeah, God has just been doing so many wonderful things and growing the ministry, and we're now seeing second generation families coming, kids who grew up in the ministry now bringing their children, and so yeah, and we have 3 different locations that we go out to, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I just couldn't see my life doing anything else. It's my heart. It's what I breathe. It's my heartbeat. They're my family. I call them my extended family. When volunteers come out, I say, you are meeting my family today. Treat them, treat them just like you would me. So
tell us, how does Fort Worth Metro actually, when you say go out, because one time I saw a picture. Now I see pictures all the time, and I see, and I remember you had this thing when you talk about a vehicle being wrapped and before that, but
yes.
Is it mostly a mobile ministry? Is it mostly, or is it a stationary ministry?
No, ma'am. Metro actually stands for Mobile Effort to Reach Out.
Okay.
And we go, I basically say, I want to minister wherever my feet land, wherever the Lord takes me. And we have this wonderful resource that is, it's a 24-foot beautiful trailer, and it's got graphics all on the side. You talk about pictures. It's got actual pictures of us doing ministry embedded into graphics on it. We just had it rewrapped this year, so that's why it's very exciting. And we take it, and it has a stage that rolls out, and it opens up, and we have inside there, we have toys and a TV and all kinds of giveaways and goodies and things. And we can basically just take Jesus anywhere that I can fit a 24-foot trailer and a huge truck. And I have to drive that thing, Miss Farah. I have to drive it.
Oh my gosh.
It's quite an adventure. I'm just rolling up. People are like, I can't believe you drive that thing. It's huge and it's big, but yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Oh my,
we're completely
honey,
mobile.
The Lord bless you, because I couldn't see driving a 24-foot trailer. That's my husband's gift, not mine. But I guess whatever God calls you to, that then again says what he calls you to, he equips us to be able to do, right?
It's interesting. It's actually a funny story. So my husband hasn't always been a Fort Worth police officer. We actually did the ministry for 18 years together before he became a Fort Worth police officer. It was always a heart of his and a passion of his. And 18 years into marriage, we're like, oh, that's probably not going to happen. We're okay with that, Lord. And he was 42, and the Lord said, guess what? It's time. And so we've been doing ministry for 18 years. He was the driver of the vehicles. He did all of the things. And then he went through the police academy, and for 9 months, he had to focus on that. So he didn't get to come out and do ministry for those 9 months. And it was quite a culture shock, because we'd done it together for 18 years, and not having him present at all was quite a challenge. So I was thrown into a quick driving lesson of how to learn how to drive that truck and trailer. So I had to learn how to drive it very quickly, but now I'm just cruising on down. Of course, I am the slow driver on the freeway. So if you see me, I drive exactly
this big, huge, wrapped, colorful, beautiful vehicle with all these pictures.
Just go around.
Just leave her be. All right, go around. She's doing the Lord's work. Let her be. Miss Ruth, tell the audience what are some of the challenges around doing something so massive? Because I think sometimes people don't realize that they can hear the excitement in your voice and the love and the passion you have for it, but they don't understand sometimes the inner workings and the stuff that goes behind the scene before you show up. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because there's a showing up and the excitement, and at the end of the day, wow, that was great. But before you get to the day and the great, tell some of the audience listening, what are some of the challenges to making a day happen for all these families that are in such need?
Yeah, that's real. That's real. I think for me lately, one of the biggest challenges is just that, my kids are grown now. We homeschooled them for years, and they used to help me. They were, they helped me load the things. They helped me do all the work. They helped me on all the behind the scenes. And every once in a while, there are some days where, if I'm being honest, prepping for the event, it's just me. It's just me.
Wow.
Loading and getting prepared and running and picking up, 20 cases of water and putting them in the vans. And so I do, if I'm being honest with you, I do every once in a while have those moments where I'm in the car and I'm praying and I'm just thanking the Lord and saying, God, I thank you for this opportunity, but I'm kind of having a lonely day today. I'm kind of having it's not fun doing this by myself, and he always reminds me, you're not by yourself. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yes.
So that is a little bit of a challenge some days. And I think for me too, one of the questions that I've been asked lately is, "Oh, you're still doing that?"
Oh my goodness.
And I think just visibility of people just thinking, "Oh, I thought that you'd moved on from something to something else," because that's common. People shift and the Lord moves people from seasons, but sometimes he keeps people for places for years and years and years. And so just letting people know, like, yes, I'm still here. I haven't gone anywhere. We're still doing our thing, and God's still moving and doing new things. And it's not stale. It's not old. It's not, it's fresh and it's new. And, almost 100 Muslims last year giving their lives to Jesus at one of our locations. And, people seeing drug addiction, seeing marriages restored, seeing families who were couples who are just living together and not knowing, and they're getting married and serving the Lord and seeing homelessness be restored because people get their lives right and get on the right path and find job. So, we're seeing all of those things, but the day to day, you're right. The behind the scenes stuff, I mean, I do everything. I'm the bookkeeper. I'm the website. I'm the website designer. I'm the lesson plan writer. I'm the marketing person. I'm the preacher.
That's a lot. That's a lot of work.
And so I'm the guy, but at the end of the day, I'm not the guy. Jesus is the guy. And he gives me everything. When it's time to sit down and work on numbers, I work on numbers. When it's time to sit down and work on the website, somehow my brain shifts to be able to do that, because that's not a thing that I'm good at. So he gives me everything that I need in the moment that I need it. And he's so good and he's so faithful. And, he gives me exactly what I need in each moment when I need it. So
that's really amazing. And listening to what you said, it's, there was a point when you were talking about how each piece of it and how some people think you move on and they don't understand that when God has planted you, and if that's what you're supposed to be doing, you can't shift until he tells you something different. And if he hasn't told you anything different, that's where you're supposed to stay. And for me, knowing that if they go to this website and see what you're doing, they'll understand that this is something that you're building as a legacy. But when you just said you have 100 Muslims come to an event and give their lives, it's not just you're going out and, hey, you need clothes, you need socks, you need a meal, but this is ministry. This is actually life-changing. We always see that sign that says be the change you want to see. Well, that's what Fort Worth Metro is. You're actually the hands and the feet. You're actually the love that we say we're supposed to be sharing. You are action, love in action. And so people don't just come and say, get a handout. They're actually, marriage is restored. That's amazing. People are so busy talking about the chaos, and they're talking about how bad things are and how marriages are failing. We're praying for this, but then God sends individuals like yourself into the wilderness, for lack of better terms, because this is wilderness land, right? And then you 100%. Have people like yourself that go, and the drug addicted, Yeah, people that are not afraid to go into the alleys or the places where people are dirty and smelly, and you bring them out. And so I hope our listeners are catching this, that it's not just a truck going down with toys during the holidays, but you have people, I've seen it weeping and crying on the videos and their lives are changed, because it's when we could be the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yeah.
This is, I can't even explain how I feel it, and I know you understand what I'm saying. You can't explain how it is to be on that side of it and say, it's not just going, and I'm not minimizing what you're giving. I'm not minimizing,
100%.
because that's huge too.
100%.
Because getting the resources, getting donors, anybody listening, I'm having a conversation with Ruth Calzada. She is the executive director of Fort Worth Metro. She is a mom. She is a worship leader. She is a speaker. She is a woman extraordinaire in my book. She is one of those that is making a mark in the land for the Lord. But if you would go to her site and just see what she's doing, if you have the means to donate, to provide help and resources, and want to volunteer to any worthy cause in this Dallas-Fort Worth Metro, this would be it, because this organization is the hands and feet of Jesus right now on the earth for those that are needed. I'm going to let you keep talking about the organization, because when I saw the picture of the Souls for Souls and the washing of the feet, my Lord, what that means to somebody who would think that somebody would never touch their feet, or somebody who would never bless them in that way. I've been there with people who, you bring them off the street, or they've been walking the street and their feet are dirty and cold and they don't have anything. And we can humble ourselves. We take for granted that we come home to a warm house and we can wear multiple pairs of shoes, change my sneakers out whenever I want to match my colors. But you have someone whose feet are almost on the ground and they keep wearing the same socks, or they have blisters because their feet are. But you guys wash their feet. Talk to us about Souls for Souls, because I think you may have one coming up soon, don't you?
We do. May 22nd. I'm going to pretty much cry through this whole this whole conversation, because this is a really big.
What was the date again? Give me that date again.
I'm sorry, May 22nd and May 24th. It's a Thursday and a Saturday. And the way that initially came about, it's actually kind of comical. We had a friend of ours that was, he was some kind of investigator. I don't know what exactly he did. And he came to me and he said, we've confiscated about 1,000 pairs of knockoff fake Nike shoes. And he said, we confiscated them from a guy that was selling them. And he said, I'm supposed to throw them away. He said, but he said, I can't see myself throwing shoes away. He said, can you make them go away? He's kind of like giving us the wink.
Yeah.
Can you make them go away? And we were like, yeah, I think we can figure out a way to dispose of them. And so we came up with this idea of, but in our head, we're like, that's a logistical nightmare, of finding everybody's sizes. How are we going to one-on-one create a line to do this? And so we prayed about it, and we thought, all right, Lord, give us wisdom to know how we can do this and it not be utter chaos.
Right.
And we just had this light bulb. We're just like, one-on-one, sit them down, pray with them, wash their feet. And while that's going on, someone is taking their shoe, matching it with the size that they need, bringing it back. There's a whole process going on behind the scenes while they're getting that one-on-one connection. And so it's really powerful. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And now we're this year will be our 10th year to do that.
Wow.
And there's so many, I could spend the entire hour just talking about this. There's so many awesome facets to it. I remember one year we did a day where probably 30 kids came from an organization and they wanted to serve. And there was this one little boy, 7 years old. He was a pastor's son, 7 years old. For an hour and a half, he sat. And you're talking, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all, the sweetest white little boy
Right,
that
right.
grew up in church, I mean, just never exposed to any kind of inner city, anything like that,
Right.
That's how he grew up. Sitting across, and I have a picture of it, sitting across from this tall, probably, and this little boy is short, tall, 6 foot something black man, probably 60 years old. And he's just, this little white boy is just there washing this black man's feet. And when I walked up, they were talking like they'd known each other for years, and they were just having them a little good conversation. And he was asking him about school, and the little boy was asking him about his family. And I mean, they were just having,
my Lord.
Wow. Like, and the little boy prayed for the man.
Wow.
And then we gave him shoes. And I mean, I have story after story after story after story of just people have accepted Christ in that line. We've had people who have sat down and didn't want their feet washed because they were embarrassed, but then changed their mind because they felt so loved and so comfortable. We've had workers that have come to me and said, Miss Ruth, I don't want to wash feet because I have a feet thing. It's just a thing of mine. I'm like, well, there's lots of places you can serve. You don't have to wash feet. Not everybody has to wash feet.
Right.
30 minutes into it, they'll come and say, I feel like I'm supposed to go wash feet. And they do. And it's transformational for that volunteer to come and do that.
Yes.
I mean, it's just the stories that come out of that. And you're talking, we have 50 stations where a worker sits here and a volunteer sits across, and there's a water bucket. But you're right. You're talking, I'll never forget, one of the most difficult ones was there was a gentleman named Danny Jr. that used to live in the neighborhood. I say used to because a year and a half ago, my sweet friend Danny passed and went on to see the Lord. But he had some mental health issues, and everybody knew him. He didn't speak clearly, but he loved Metro and he loved Mr. Buddy, my husband. And so Danny showed up one day, and my husband was going to wash his feet, and he pulled his shoe off. Sorry.
No, don't apologize.
His sock was stuck to his foot.
That may be one of the pictures that you have online.
It's pretty dirty and yellow, and
yes,
he had to really work to get his sock off. He had to actually put it in the water with the sock on to get his sock off. And I'm not trying to be ugly, but obviously, just by what
people need to know, Miss Ruth. They need to know the reality.
The smell. And just the dirtiness of it. When my husband sat there and loved on Danny and washed his feet and cleaned his feet and prayed with him and ministered to him. And Danny felt like he was the king of the world that day. And he was just looking around smiling and was like, everybody look at me. Kind of like he was just he felt so loved. And we got him, somebody had given us cowboy boots. And we were thinking, who are we going to give these cowboy boots to? And they fit Danny perfectly. They were his size. And we put him a brand new pair of socks on and a pair of cowboy boots. And Danny thought he was a millionaire. He thought he was a millionaire. And it was one of the most precious moments. Because, we've known Danny. This was in Stop 6. We've known Danny for all the time that we've been there. Then it was 30 years because he's, like I said, he's gone on to be with the Lord. But just moments like that. I mean, I could, like I said, I could go on and on and on about this event and just how precious it is. It's not, it's not that event out of all the events we do. That event is not about the shoes. It is not
Exactly.
about the shoes at all. It is about eternity and life changing. I'm talking someone going this direction in their life, and because they sat down in a chair in front of someone who took 2.5 to 3 minutes is the time that we give. Like, we have 500 people that go through the line. So clearly
Mhm.
we try to say, like, 3 minutes if you can, 5 minutes at the most. So in 2.5, 3 minutes of washing their feet, spending time with them, a person going this direction could immediately change the direction of their life and be transformed
Yes.
and have a complete turnaround by just 3 minutes of someone taking the time to look them in the face, wash their feet, and say, "You matter. You are
And God
important.
loves you.
And God
Yes.
loves you."
Man, it's so, like you said, transformational for each person involved. The
Absolutely.
person that you're serving, the person who is serving,
Absolutely.
the people who donate.
Yep.
I don't want the people who are listening to say, "Oh, I can't do that," whatever. What can we do to support that effort
Sure.
as
I would say,
listeners?
yeah. I would say, A, spread the word. Visibility is the biggest thing, because even if you can't, um, you know people who probably can. And so I would
Yes.
just say, if you hear about it, share it, spread it, social media. If you see a video, put it out there. If you see anything that we do, put it out there. You can, like I said, anybody can donate, anybody can give. Uh, um, Actually, I just saw the website. It's ftwmetro.org. Just
Okay, let
let me
me
fix
fix
that. Yeah.
that.
Sorry about that. So, but yeah, anybody can donate to the cause, and that's another funny thing. I don't know if I have any pictures on the website of that, but going into Walmart and basically clearing their entire shoe section and walking through Walmart with 5 grocery carts full of shoes, and people are just like, what are y'all doing? And the process of doing that's so fun. So I actually do have video footage and pictures of us spending the money. So if you if you donate to that cause, you could see that's always fun, going and buying the shoes and doing that. So you can jump on board with that. And of course, volunteers. Like I said, volunteers. I think, you were asking me earlier in the conversation, what is one of the hardest things for me. I think in the day and age that we are, with social media and with everything going on in the world and politics, and which I never talk about that, or never really get involved in that at all. But with everything that's going on, and I
Mhm.
see people posting and complaining and
Mhm.
posting this story and that story, and I think, man, as much as you're spending time, you're spending
Yes.
researching and looking at those articles and posting those memes and all of those things, I
Mhm.
think maybe you could come out one day. And if you really, because
Have that time.
posting an article on social media isn't really changing the world. It's not making a difference. So that's kind of one of the things that rubs me. I'm like, there's so many people that I know that are
Yes.
just like posting and sharing and arguing and bickering. And I'm thinking, if all of these people would spend their energy that they put into that just coming out once with me, um, what a difference it could
What a
make.
difference.
What a difference it could make.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or
I just
even
took
not
a
just me,
happy
even if it's
cafe.
not just me, even if it's somewhere, another organization,
Yes. Yes.
even if it's not just me, but yeah,
I agree 100% that we have to, again, as we're saying, be the change that we say we want to be, not just
yeah,
talk about it, not complain about it. There's so
right.
much complaining. It wasn't this year. It was it last year? My word, because God gives me in prayer, He gives me a word for the year.
Hmm.
That's for me, that helps me through
Hmm.
the year. And it was one year He told me, I'm greater than the chaos. And
Mm,
every time, people are looking at these big things that are happening, I would just say, God's greater than chaos. No matter
absolutely.
what you're complaining about, no matter what you're talking. And this year I was in prayer, and He gave it to me in 2 sections. Though He said, I am the God of protection, provision, and promise. And I'm
Mm,
telling you, He's showing me
I
Miss
love
Ruth,
that.
he is the God of protection, provision, and promise. And all this stuff that everybody, he's bigger than all of this.
Yes,
He
he
is
is.
God.
Yes, he
And so
is.
instead of me complaining, instead of me jumping on these bandwagons, I'm not worried about eggs because I don't eat eggs like that, but I'm not worried about eggs. And even if I did, I wouldn't be worried. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that people, that we don't have things that will cause alarm. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But in the midst of alarm, we have to say, God, you are the source who
Mm-hmm.
provides the resource. Like the families that come to your mobile vehicle, you are the resource that God has provided. There is
Right.
a way if we just trust him, and the energy, like you said it so clearly, the energy we're expending, if we can expend that saying, God, what do you have me to do today?
Right.
Sometimes it is for me to go. Sometimes it's for me to be a voice. Sometimes it's for me to open this platform so other people can hear of the great things or get connected. I'm finding in this hour, he's allowing me to be a connector
Mm-hmm.
and saying, grab hold to those people that I've put out there in the world and make their name bigger. And even though
Mm-hmm.
I'm small, because this
Right.
little, I'm not going to say that, God, it's not a small Tuesday talk. It's going to be big. It's going to be whatever he's called it to be, because
Mm-hmm.
individuals have spoken into my life and said, you're impacting more people than you know. So wherever this is going in the world, I believe there's going to be someone who's going to donate. There are going to be multiple people that are going to donate to Fort Worth Metro. And they're going to be volunteers that's going to come from this, because God doesn't do anything by happenstance. God
Absolutely.
doesn't do this by happenstance. And it's the souls for souls. It's the feeding that you do. It's the holiday feeding. It's the many people that need it. And for some of us who can't go or who can't be there on a regular, we can be our part. We can send. If you think your $10 don't matter, Miss Ruth can buy something with $10. She can
Listen,
feed
that's
some.
funny that you say that, is because I have a family who has for literally 30 years donated $10 a month. I get a check every month from this sweet family. $10.
Amazing.
$10.
Amazing.
And I smile so big every time I open it, because I'm just like, it's $10. It's
Yes.
$10. 10 times 10 makes 100. You know, I mean,
Yes.
it's just like it,
And over 30
every
years,
dollar.
how much,
Man, I
you
haven't
know,
done the math, and I'm not a math person, so I try to do that. But if I got a
right.
calculator, I could figure it out.
But you think about that. I've been doing the, Bible through a year with my sister. And just when you said that, I was listening to the scripture in, I think it's in Mark, where he was talking about how all the leaders and those who had money brought all their money into the offering. But God said the woman who had 2 coins brought
Yeah,
her small. And he said she gave much more than those, because they gave out of their what they had, their abundance, but she gave
yeah,
out of what she had, out of
absolutely.
her poverty. And sometimes when you give out of just what you have, God will bless it, and he can expand it, and he can stretch it. So those of you who are listening, if by all you can go to the website and you can donate. There
Yeah,
are people, just when she just talked about Mr. Danny, and there's something else I want to hit on, because I've done ministry down in Dallas, and we've come across individuals who we see as not having all their faculties all, and we know when
sure.
someone's not all there, but God can still minister to that soul and
Oh,
get
yes,
them.
we can.
And so you taking the time to minister to that man and make sure through the love of God that he had a way to reach Jesus in the
Yeah,
midst of that,
yeah,
where others would shy away and say, don't talk to him, don't touch him, he's crazy. But in the
yeah,
midst of that, and knowing that, okay, because of the conversations and the love that you and your family showed him, that even in when he was able to be lucid for a moment, that he
yeah.
accepted Jesus.
Yes,
Man, how
yes.
powerful.
So powerful.
So powerful.
So
Where
powerful.
so many others run in the opposite direction.
Right.
Or somebody else would have said, well, I can't touch his feet. I can't do this. I can't.
Yeah.
But now his feet were from that time, he was able to put on something to protect those feet. I was reading about you and about the organization, and I'm
Hmm.
going to share that with our guests, a link to this article. It blessed me. It's some of the stuff you talked about, but there's something you say in that article that I want you to share with our listeners. You said, this is a lot of this poverty, or this is right up under our noses. And then you said, and I find this when I minister to homeless people as well. People think most people are there because they've done something. Everybody hasn't done something. Can you hit on that a little bit? Because sometimes we think people are homeless because they've caused it. They want to be homeless. They're irresponsible. What do you think about that mindset?
I spoke at a youth group a few weeks ago, and I made a comment, and I got some pushback on it, but I will stand by what I said. There's no such thing as a bad kid.
Right.
And I say that because they struggle and they have the issues that they have for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it leads to that. It's like you don't know why they're there and what they've been through. And yes, now some of it, I will say, some of it is choices. Some of it choices
Yes.
lands is how, what you do accept. It's for example, the example of two kids raised in the same household, maybe divorced, alcoholic father, separated, all the things, and one kid makes it out and becomes a thriving citizen, and the other one ends up maybe addiction and failed marriages and things like that. They have the same history, and it's so part of it is choices and falling into that, but you don't know where they've been and why they are the way they are. And if you would take 5 minutes to have a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
to understand, you would know, oh man, they've had it a rough life.
Mm-hmm.
They've
Mm-hmm.
had this has been handed to them. They're here and they're like this not because they want to be. And I think it's just one bad circumstance after another that just piles up, and people reach a point where you're just like, no, we're not gonna take the time. We're not gonna take the time. They're past the point of no return.
Right.
They're never going to make it. They're never going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to give them the time of day. And so I think that's how I feel about the kids that we work with.
Mm-hmm.
I liken it to, I tell people it's like a vacuum. We go in, whether it's once a week, once a month, they may see us once a week, the little bit that they see us, that hour that we're there with them. But the rest of the time, we have this. So we're like the one little piece that is like their light, their hope, their joy, their the positivity. The rest of their life is just sucking them away from this light, away from this, And I mean the drugs that they see, maybe the abuse that may be happening that is behind the scenes that nobody knows about. Just the all of the surroundings that they're dealing with, these kids are, and they're just being sucked away from that one little ounce of hope that they get a week, and so it's combative. It's a fight, and we're lucky that we see some fight out of it and get out of it, and if we can get them to grab onto the Lord with all of their might and with all of their strength, then they will make it. They will make it eventually. And so I think that's the thing is when people say, oh, homeless, they're there because they want to be. I mean, I will say there may be a portion of them. I knew a gentleman that was that way. We gave him options and he didn't want to take them. He was happy with where he was, but the good portion of them aren't. They want, if they were given an opportunity, if someone sat down and took the time and listened to their story, I think people would be shocked to find out that it's just been one heartbreak after another. One person after another has turned their backs on them and not given them the time of day.
And I think it's that compounded effect that have caused people to distance themselves and say, I don't want help. I don't want, and they've seen a lot of breakage and disappointment and different things. And so even when I've worked with the homeless individuals, there was a gentleman at the Salvation Army down in Dallas, and his story was he was traveling from California through Texas to go somewhere, but his truck broke down here in Texas. Or no, he stopped somewhere in Texas and everything was stolen out of his vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Everything the man owned. He wind up having to try to sell. Somehow the story came about where everything he had, then his truck was gone, broke down. He had nothing. He wind up at the
Mm-hmm.
Salvation Army.
Yeah.
But, we would go think, oh, he's here because of, no, he's there because of everything he had. I've talked to people who they had medical bills that were so enormous that they lost their housing, trying to pay their medical bills to care for themselves. And so we never, like you said, sometimes it's the backstory that we haven't learned, and we just assume people aren't doing what they should do instead of understanding, if not for the grace of God, there go I.
Yeah.
I've tried to thank God. You said it in the beginning that God has done so much for us.
So much.
If not for the grace of God, and if we would turn that view around, we would not see people sometimes in the light. And even some of the kids who chose to make, who've done these choices, or adults who make these choices. I often say, but why? What is the root that needs to be pulled out? Because some people know I do prison ministry, and I used to teach in a men's prison for years. Mm-hmm. This last year and a half, 2 years, I've had the blessed opportunity to spend a lot of time with these women. And I found out some things about speaking to these women, Miss Ruth, that the underlying things, and I remember a lady just recently said to me, I teach on boundaries a lot, and boundaries and knowing who you are. But the lady said, if someone would have just shared that with me 20 years ago, would have taught me these lessons, Miss Vera, 20 years ago, I would not be here. Right. I would have made better choices. And it's that some of these things, they make choices because they don't know. They've not been taught the tools that we have, right?
Yes, exactly.
They've not been taught what we have. And so we just assume that they're doing these because that's what they know, but they don't know. I didn't know some of the decisions I made were bad, but the grace of God pulled me out
right.
and helped me do better. And when I learned, now that I know better, I'm trying to teach others better. But some of the people we know, we think they're just bad seeds, but they're not. They don't have the tools we have.
Exactly.
So I thank God for your organization going in and blessing others with the tools. If you had to, you've talked about such wonderful things going on, and some of the challenges are making sure you have what you need. What would you want people to leave our listeners with today about either yourself, your ministry? We didn't touch much about you being a worship leader, even though you said you'd like to. Mm-hmm. I did. I touched about you being a worship leader, your family. Man, guys, if you ever get to hear her with Movement City, I told her I wish they would make an album that they would record. I'm like, yo, guys, record. When I met her, I said, do you have a recording? And Gabby was so cute. She just looked at her mom and said, no, Mom, we keep getting asked this. I'm sure you get asked that a lot. But with your hands being so full of other things, yes. I understand. If you ever decide to record.
Let me I wanted to tell you this earlier when we were talking about us. People are like, what's so unique about your worship? Here's the thing is people say worship leaders. We call ourselves lead worshipers because I call myself a worship leader, but somebody once said, oh, y'all are really like lead worshipers. And this is what makes it unique is that we're just worshiping. We just happen to be on a stage under the lights. We're just worshiping. We're just doing what we would do in our own personal time. We just happen to have a microphone in our hand, and we're saying, "Hey, we're about to go to the feet of Jesus. You want to go with us?" Mm-hmm. That's all it is. That's all it is. So I think we're just when we look at it and when we pray before we go out, when we just say, "All right, guys, we're about to go to the feet of Jesus, and we're going to ask this crowd if they want to go with us." That's all it is.
I think that's what made it different.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. We're not going out there to try to put on a show or try to make it sound perfect or try to, we've done all of that work behind the scenes to work on, obviously we want to bring Jesus excellence 100% of whatever we do. Mm-hmm. But now we're just like, man, all right, it's time to go to the feet of Jesus. Let's go invite them to go with us. And so I think that's what it is. So Anyways, but yeah.
No, and because it's such a unique experience. Well, I won't say unique because there are some great lead worshipers, if you want to call them, worship leaders out there. But it was just such an enjoyable. It's such a presence. I would say it's such an anointing flowing in the room that you have no other choice but to know you know that the Lord is pleased, and the worship is so heavy, and it's so, I mean, anyone in the room, you're invited to feel the Lord and his presence in the room.
Yes.
So, I mean,
Yes.
that's where it was. And worship is so important to me for that intimacy with God. Your
Absolutely.
family, and part of it's your family. So I know you don't mind me sharing that.
Yes. Yeah.
That you are, that it's saying, hey, we're here, we're at the feet of Jesus. Come get close and be intimate with him. That
Right.
was the feeling. Be intimate with God. And if you're not already, we're drawing you closer
Yes.
to be intimate with him. We're drawing you close. Whatever you had when you came in the room, leave it there or take it back out and come back in and be intimate with the Father.
Right.
And that's what the feeling was. And so and Gabby, when she begins to sing, and even I think he's your nephew, the young man who wears
Jeremiah,
glasses, dark hair.
yes. Yes.
Yes, and they just go freely. It's not, it's just free. And Gabby just goes free, and it's just, hey, I'm
Very
here,
special.
Lord. It's as if she blocks out everyone else in the room. Hey, Lord, I'm here. I'm here. And so
Yes.
you have no other choice but to bring yourself to that same level. Lord, I'm here.
Yeah.
And so I have
Love
just wanted to have this
it.
conversation and share you with so many other people
Oh.
that maybe don't connect with you on Facebook, and
Yeah.
hopefully they will, because again, our hearts connected. And when I reached out to you and I said, oh, I hope you remember me, because I
absolutely did, of course.
yeah, the Lord, I remember even coming up and sharing with your family what the Lord had told me. And
Yes.
you guys are just such a blessing, Miss Ruth.
Thank you.
And I know the community feels it. The community knows it. I just want you to know how much I love you, and I
Thank
love
you.
what you're doing. And I believe everything that the Lord has, and he's going to continue blessing what you're doing. I thank God for all that he's going to do for souls, and however many souls that's going to be won for the Lord, that continually. I pray that everyone that is watching this will go to the website, will donate, will volunteer, will give what they have from the depths of their soul, that they won't hold back. No holds barred. No holds barred. But again, if you had to share one thought, not even one, multiple, whatever you had to share before we end this segment with our listeners, what is it that you would want them to know, or even just this night, this day, about?
I got it. The Lord has never not done it. He's never not done it. He is faithful. He will do it. He can do it, and he is capable. And if you will trust him and believe, he will do it. He will always come through. You have to just hang on. You have to hang on. You may be hanging on by a thread. I've been saying this to a lot of girls in particular lately. If you're hanging on by a thread, just make sure that it's attached to the hem of his garment, and you're going to be okay.
Yes.
I feel compelled to tell this story because I feel like there's someone that's out there that maybe watching this that's believing for something big for the Lord, and they're just like, man, I just don't know if he can do it. I remember one year, it's probably about 6 years ago, we were preparing for our Souls for Souls outreach, and we do it 2 days. So at the time, I had a girl, her name was Allison, and she was in charge of the shoe truck, and she had the only key that there was to lock and unlock the door. So at the end of the day, we're done. She looks at the shoes. She gets a visual of what we need, if we need to go buy anything, if we need to prepare any more shoes. So she kind of writes, even on some of the boxes, she'll put a line so we'll know, like, this is where the shoes, what level is on the shoes. And so she closes the truck. She locks it up. So the next morning we get to the outreach, and truck hasn't been opened yet. And she goes in, she opens the truck, she gets in it, and she immediately comes back to me and says, did you get in the truck last night? And I said, oh gosh, no. I said, did something happen? Like immediately I went to the bed, I'm like, oh no, what, did something happen? Did it get broken into? What happened? And she's like, no, I'm seriously asking you, did you get it? I said, no, I promise you, no, you were the only one that has the key. So unless the lock was broken, nobody got into the truck. She said, I have to tell you something. And I said, okay, please tell me. You're freaking me out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, the Lord multiplied the boxes of shoes last night.
Wow. I just got a chill.
And I said, what? And she's like, just come with me. And so we got in the truck and she showed me where she had like drawn, which is funny because she'd never done this before, but she like drew a line on a couple of the boxes, a few of the boxes, like this is where, and then close the box, like this is where the shoe level was. She'd never done that before. For whatever reason, she did it that time with like a Sharpie, do the line.
Mm-hmm.
When I tell you the line is here and the shoe level is here, where the amount of shoes had risen in the box. And it was almost every box. And
wow,
the Lord multiplied the shoe boxes. And
wow,
I was just like, what? Like, I mean, even now, just telling the story, and it's been 6 years and I've told this story so many times. He can do it.
He can do anything.
And he will. And he will. And sometimes I remember the very first time we ever gave every child a bike. It was 600 bikes we were believing for. And God gave us this vision, this dream, like a month before we were to give these bikes away. So I had 1 month to raise the funds for 600 bikes. And I'll never forget, like, man, how am I going to do this, God? How am I? And I'm telling you, when I tell you, it was 3 days before that we were still buying 150 bikes. Like it was the last minute still, but he came through and we were able to give every kid a bike. And so I say, sometimes it's the last minute. Sometimes it's not on my timeline. Most of the time it's not on my timeline. It's not how I would see it. It's not how I would envision it. Sometimes it's not how I want it, how I would have wanted it.
Yes.
He's never not done it. He's always come through, and always been faithful. So just to encourage somebody out there that if you're believing God for something, just keep believing. Keep believing. He will do it. He will do it.
Part of that was for me.
Well, there you go. He'll do it.
Because I'm believing God for something really big.
Yeah.
And it's my confession this year. And so thank you for sharing that.
He'll do it. If he's put it on your heart, he'll do it. He's already got every detail worked out. He's already planned it. He's already knows what the finish line is going to look like. He knows each step he gives you, you take that step, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next. And don't be overwhelmed by the big picture. Don't be overwhelmed by all the little details that you think. That I'm a detailer. I'm a person. I'm a list maker. I'm a planner. I like to know what it's going to look like, how it's going to look, and when he doesn't give me those pieces, I kind of tend to get a little freaked out and kind of my blood pressure starts to rise because I'm like, how are we going to make this work? And he said, we are going to make it work together if you'll trust me,
Yes.
So
yes.
He's going to do it. He's going to do it. He does it every time. He's never not done it. He's never not done it.
Wow.
Ever.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Miss Ruth, you have been such a blessing. Fort Worth Metro is such a blessing. I pray that whatever God sets your hands to do, that it explodes, and I'm sure it will. Thank you for coming on Tuesday Talk Live and sharing your organization, yourself, your family, your people with the audience. Hey guys, this is Vera Sattler with Tuesday Talk Live, and thank you for joining us tonight to hear Miss Ruth Calzada and her family, her story. Whatever you can do to donate to this ministry to make sure Souls for Souls is a success, and not just Souls for Souls, but all the things that the organization is doing, please join, be a part of it. And until we talk again next week on Tuesday Talk Live,